Well, g'day folks, hope you're all doing well. So I thought it's about time to do another gear loadout video to show you guys what I've taken a wild camping or bushcraft trip. Now it's been about a year since I did my last gear video and a fair bit has changed over the last year. I've got a bunch of new gear, some that I've used and abused and other bits of kit that are quite recent. So just before I get started though, just remember that gear is extremely personal. So what works for me might not work for you guys, but it's always good to sort of see what other people are carrying. You might find ways you can improve your kit. So what I do is I'll lay everything out, we'll go through it all, and at the end, I'll give you guys my base weight. Alright, first up, my backpack. It's a little bit hard to go for a backpacking trip without a backpack, so the one I've been using for the last year is a Fjallraven Nabisco 45 litre. It's made from a G1000 fabric, so it's nice and lightweight but still durable at the same time. It's got these good pockets on each side to store your water bottle, or I also store my tripod or my fishing rod in this pocket. It's made from a pretty hard wearing material as well, so when you're rubbing up against rocks it's not going to get a hole in it, which is pretty important to me. We've also got a zipper that runs down the length of the bag on each side, so it allows access to the gear deep inside the bag. On the underside of the lid, you've got another zipper with a nice big pocket, and the same on the top of the lid, you've got another zipper with a nice big pocket. So plenty of places to store your gear. On the back side, it's got a really nice ventilation and support system, as well as a pocket on each side of the waist belt, so it allows you to store some food or a garment in reach or a PLB or something like that. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this pack. And then next up, we've got my Alton Goods 3x3 meter tarp. Now, I've used this for a couple of years now and absolutely love it. It's such a good quality tarp. It's lightweight, it's extremely packable, and it's got extra tie-up points as well. So definitely one to check out. I've been using Alton Goods for a couple of years now, and as you'll notice as I go through this kit, I've got a fair bit of Alton Goods stuff. That's just because they're an Aussie brand, so it's always good to support the local brands. And yeah, especially in Australia where it's hard to get good quality outdoor gear, this is one company that's producing some really nice gear, so definitely worth checking them out. Alright, the next up is my Outdoor Research Helium Bivy. I've had this for a couple of years now, I've got some pretty good use out of it. It's nice and lightweight, weighs about 450 or 500 grams, and it's extremely packable. It takes up barely any room at the bottom of my pack. And even though I like to just sleep under a tarp just on a ground sheet, sometimes I might come across a place where there's lots of ants, or maybe the weather's a bit dicey and I want a bit of extra protection. And that's when I'll chuck this out and sleep in this. So yeah, it's always good just to have this in the kit. And the next up, we just got my ground sheet. Now there's nothing too special about this ground sheet. I don't even know what the brand's called, but it's just nice and lightweight. It packs down really small. It's just good to have just to chuck down and sort of keep any sand or dirt out of your sleep gear. Now sometimes I like to mix up my camping, so I do like to go hammock camping every now and then. So this is a really good hammock camping setup. It's all by Alton Goods. In here we've got a lightweight hammock with the tree hugger straps. We've got the bug net, and over here we've got the underquilt as well. So having that is great for those winter months when you want to go hammock camping. It's going to keep you nice and warm. But yeah, during summer, all I need is just these two things, and it's a really good setup and something that I really enjoy doing during summer, just to get off that hot ground and get some ventilation around you. It's a really nice way to camp. Alright, now even though I do prefer to wild camp using a tarp and bivvy setup, I do have a one-man tent, and this is a Westshore Exigent 1, and it's a nice lightweight tent, and the good thing about it is it's completely freestanding. Even the vestibules are freestanding, so which means if I go somewhere where it's quite rocky, I don't have to worry about pegging it into the ground, and that's usually when I'll bring this along. If I can't really make a tarp shelter because it's either lacking of trees or it's quite rocky terrain, then I'll chuck this in the pack and sleep in this. And yeah, it's a really nice lightweight tent. Alright, so next up is my Cedar Summit Ember 3 quilt, and I absolutely love this thing. It is so body warm. Its comfort range is about -4 to -10. It comes in around about 950 grams, so nice and lightweight for those cold winter trips. And it's nice and lofty as well, so definitely retains a lot of your heat. And this one's got a sewn-in foot box at the bottom, so keeps your footsies nice and warm. And I'm definitely a quilt convert after using this. They're so much better than a sleeping bag in my opinion. No more getting tangled up in your bag throughout the night, so yeah, really happy with this quilt. Now another quilt that I have is the Cedar Summit Cinder quilt. And this is a really great quilt for that summer camping It's rated between 10 and 4 degrees, and it's so light and compact. I think it weighs about 550 grams, and yeah, it just packs down so small. So it's a really good quilt to take on those summer trips. So yeah, it's super light, and this one doesn't have a sewn-in foot box. It's just got a draw cord, which you can either undo to sort of make it a nice big quilt, or you can cinch it right up and create a little foot box to keep your feet warm. Yeah, it's a really nice quilt, this one. Alright, the next up is my sleeping mat. Now, this is a Nemo Tensor insulator mat. This is a long and wide version because I'm a tall bastard, so I need my extra length. It's a really comfortable mat, this one. I've been using this for about a year now, and it's done me really well. Its R value is about 3.5, so it's a good year-round mat, especially during those colder months. So during those warm months, when I don't really sort of need that extra R value from the Nemo Tensor, I'll bring this Cedar Summit Etherlite XT non-insulator mat because it's a little bit lighter, and yeah, I just don't really need that extra warmth, and having that little bit of weight savings is always a bonus. So I usually chuck this in the pack in those warmer months. The next up, we've got my Cedar Summit Eros pillow. It's a super comfy pillow, this one. It's also got a little valve on the underside that you can use to deflate some air out of. And it packs down so light and small as well. And as for my tools, this is my Silky Gomboy saw, and this is a 240 length. And it's a really nice saw, this one. It's really comfy in the hands and absolutely chews through the wood as well. And now for the all-important Bushcraft knife. Now this one's made by Mitch from Core Knife and Tool. And this one's called the Bushman. And it's a really beautiful knife. I absolutely love this one. He does such a good job, and it fits in the hand so well. He also makes these really beautiful leather sheaths. As well as a ferro rod. So yeah, a really nice quality Bushcraft knife, this one. And this here is my tinder pouch and fire kit. And this beautiful piece of leatherwork is made by Al from Howling Dingo. And the leather is kangaroo tail. So we open this up. Inside I keep my flint and steel kit and just any tinder that I might find, so like some paper bark or whatever else I can find while I'm out in the bush. And inside my flint and steel kit, just got a little Fresnel lens. So if I find some dried out kangaroo scat or wombat scat, or basically any herbivore that's been dried out, and I can use the sun rays to direct the sunlight and then create an ember on that scat, and I can use that to put in a bird's nest and start a fire. And also in here I've got my flint, my steel, some charcloth, and just some bits of rag as well. Now for my extra cordage, I usually carry about 10 meters worth of 550 paracord. And the reason I carry this is quite often where I go is quite rocky, and there's usually lots of little sort of cliffs or rocky outcrops I have to get down. And so sometimes I might need to lower my bag. So I've got this to lower my bag, and also just doubles as just some handy rope if I ever need it. And then in this dry bag here, I keep a couple of extra lengths of cordage. So I've got 4 lengths, so four 4-meter lengths of hoochie cord, as well as another 4-meter length of bank line, and just some other rope here that I use to make like little pressing knots and things like that. So yeah, that's about all the extra cordage I take, and the reason I keep it in this dry bag here is because this can also double as a few things. So say if I get a puncture in my pillow, I can always blow air into this and then do it up and sort of create a little makeshift pillow. And also if I go somewhere that's quite wet, I could always chuck my camera in here, or my phone or my keys or something like that, just to keep them nice and dry. And for my headlamp, I've just got this LED Lenser MH8. It's a really good torch, this one. It's rechargeable by USB. It's got 3 modes of brightness, as well as being able to direct the beam to have a nice narrow field, or you can make it wide angle. And it's also got a strobe function. And you can also change the color of the light to a red, or a green, or a blue. So it makes reading at night time nice and easy. Right, now this is a very handy piece of kit. This is my VanQuest Husky organizer. If we open it up, it's just a really good place just to keep everything nice and organized. Now we start on this side. Because I do a lot of filming, I've got to take a fair bit of extra camera gear, so I've just got a little camera battery charger. It's got a little USB on the side of it. And then I've got 2 extra camera batteries. I've got a little light to put on top of my camera so that I can film at night. This brand's got Aperture, and this is an ALM9 light. To keep everything charged up, I've got a RAV Power 10,000 milliamp power bank. And this is getting a little bit old, I've had it for a fair few years, but it still does the job. And here I've got my Katadyn B-free water filter. And here's the water pouch, the 1 litre water pouch that goes with it. Now this is a pretty recent addition to the kit, but I've used it a couple of times now and absolutely love it. It's just, it filters water so quickly, it's doing a really good job, so I'm pretty impressed with it. And here, in this little plastic test tube, we've just got some needle and thread, just in case I need to make any repairs. I've got a pencil in case I need to write anything down. I've got a little cutlery set from Cedar Summit, just a knife, fork and spoon, and super lightweight this. Weighs about 20 grams, so it's really, really good little cutlery set. I've got another camera battery here, so that makes 3 camera batteries. I've just got a little mini Bic lighter wrapped in duct tape, because if it's wet outside and I need to get a fire started, and so I'm finding it a bit difficult to get it happening, I can always just peel a bit of this duct tape off and then light it, and then that burns for a good couple of minutes, so that's a really good way to get the fire started. I've got a little case pocket knife. I love this thing. Big fan of pocket knives, and it's a really beautiful little pocket knife, and I like to take this because I find if I'm going fishing, it's just a really nice knife to fillet the fish, so I like to keep that in there. I've got some waterproof matches and also some stormproof matches. And lastly, just a little roll of duct tape I've wrapped around a little stick here. So yeah, we need to make any repairs out in the bush, and which I have before. I've got a rip in my quilt, so I had to repair this when I was out in the bush once, and it does a really good job of holding up, so it's good to keep a little roll of this. And lastly, actually, at the front of the organizer, I've just kept some aluminium foil and just a little piece of paper, just in case I need to write anything down on. And I just use the foil in case I want to wrap up a fish or wrap up some potatoes or something like that. I've just got some bit extra there. So yeah, it's a very handy kit, this. I really really like this organizer. Alright, so now for my cook system. So this is a new addition to the kit, and this is my new frying pan by a brand called Keith. And it's a titanium frying pan. It's got a handle that folds out and then locks into place. And it's just a really nice frying pan. It's a good size. It's not too big, but not too small. It's a nice depth, and it's really lightweight. I think it weighs about 170 grams or so. And yeah, I've used it a couple of times already, and I'm really enjoying it. Alright, and the next up I've got my water bottle and my nesting cup. Now this is a 1 litre stainless steel water bottle from the Pathfinder school. I've also got here a 750ml nesting cup, and inside it's got some markings to measure out your water, as well as little handles there. And thirdly, I've got my stove stand. So I can either put this just directly in the fire, or I can put an alcohol stove underneath, and I can use my nesting cup on top of that to boil up some water. So it's a pretty good little system, this one. And the reason I use a stainless steel water bottle over, say, a plastic Nalgene bottle is because this thing is multi-use. So I can boil water in it to sterilize it. I can create char cloth inside of it. And also because I'm doing a lot of hiking around sandstone country and always banging up against rocks, this thing is near indestructible. So it's a really good setup, this one. And just to cut up my food, I usually take this little chopping board here. So it's really thin, nice and lightweight, barely takes up any room in the pack at all, and it's just a nice way to cut up your food without getting sand all throughout it. So if I plan to cook up like a nice steak over the fire, then I might take this Ultimate Goods titanium grill. It's nice and lightweight, it's a good size, so you can cook up like a nice decent steak on it, or even some 2 smaller steaks. And yeah, it's just a really nice way to cook up some good grub while you're out in the bush. Alright, and then so in this little drawstring sack, I keep my alcohol stove and my sort of washing up gear, and as well as the lid to my nesting cup. Now, this little alcohol stove is by a brand called Tokes, and this is a pretty recent addition to the kit, and it's super small and so damn light. I think it weighs about 20 grams, so I'm looking forward to using this. And just in this little Nalgene bottle, just got some metho. Now, I do have a gas cooker and a little gas stove, but to be honest, I like cooking with this kind of flame. Hey, I find it's just a nicer flame to cook on, and it's nice and silent. Obviously some places I go, it might be better off cooking with a gas stove. So I do have one, but generally I try to use this if I can. And then over here I've just got a little steel wool, just to wash up any sort of stubborn stains. And then just a little tea towel that I sort of cut and sewed myself. Another really nice little bit of kit is this Swaggy's Pantry from Core Knife and Tool. So if I open that up, it's just got these little glass vials in here with your salt and pepper, your sugar, your herbs, whatever you want to put in it basically. And it's just a really nice little kit to keep all your spices in, which is really cool. And the leather work on it's beautiful. It's done such a good job with it. I really like this. Alright, so just for my tucker bag, it's just a pretty simple cotton sack, and it's just a good way to sort of keep all my food together. The next up is my shamag, which is a pretty handy bit of kit. Obviously you can use it as a towel, which I quite often do, but you could also just sort of lay it out and use it as a bit of a tablecloth when you're cooking dinner. Obviously if it's quite cold out or windy, you can also wrap this around your face and sort of keep that wind chill off you. So it's got a fair few uses, and it's just a really handy bit of kit to have. Right, so this is probably one of the most important bits of kit that you can have in your pack, and this is a PLB, or a personal locator beacon, and this is a Garmin GPS Map 66i, and I honestly would not go out in the bush without it these days. It's so important to carry something like this, especially if you're hiking solo like I do. You really need something that you can sort of just press in case you ever get into trouble, and it really is worth every penny, because they're not cheap, but honestly just having that peace of mind is really worth it. And with this particular model you can send texts as well, so once I get to camp I can send a text to my partner to let her know I made it there okay. And also with this particular model it's got maps and GPS on it, which is pretty handy. But I tend not to use the maps on this Garmin, I tend to use the maps on my phone on an app called GaiaGPS, which is really handy. But if I ever need to, then I could always use this. So although they are pricey, there are cheaper models, so it's definitely worth looking into them, because it's definitely something that you really need out in the bush if you're going to be by yourself particularly. Alright, now another very important piece of kit that you should have in your pack, and that's a good first aid kit. So if we open this up, I'll pull everything out and we'll go through it all. Alright, so first up we've got some compression bandages, and that's extremely important in the Aussie bush because there's plenty of venomous snakes around. So if you ever get bitten, the first thing you want to do is to strap the limb with a few compression bandages. So I always take these. Now I've got a little gauze bandage here, I've got some dunny roll. Over here I've got a small pair of scissors, some tweezers, some iodine swabs, and just some cotton buds. And down here we've got an assortment of band-aids and some steri strips. I've got a little mirror in case I ever sort of need to look at a hard to reach spot, maybe on my back, to see if there's like a tick or something like that. Then up here we've got some gauze bandages, just an assortment of sizes. And down here we've got some tea tree oil, which is a nice natural antiseptic. Over here we've got some Nurofen, we've got some Elastoplast tape, I've got a little whistle in case I ever need it, got some chapstick because I always seem to get dry lips, particularly when I'm up in the high country and it's quite windy. And over here we've got a space blanket which can double as two things. Obviously if you get hypothermia you can wrap yourself up in it. Also if you need to sort of create a signalling device to attract the attention of a helicopter, then you can use this as well. And over here we've just got my toothpaste and my toothbrush, and yeah, that's it for my first aid kit. Alright, so now for my clothing. So this is my Patagonia high loft down jacket. It's really warm, this one. It's really nice and lofty. It's got a hood on it, which is good because when it gets really cold, you're going to want a hood, especially when you're sleeping in a quilt. I think a hood's pretty important. But yeah, it's really well made, this, and yeah, it's just super comfy and super warm. So yeah, pretty happy with this jacket, as well as being super light and super compressible. Alright, so that's for a rain jacket. Now this isn't really particularly anything special, it's just an old Kathmandu jacket that I got about 10 years ago, so I've had it for a fair while, and it's not particularly the best jacket. It's alright, but yeah, it probably weighs about 550 grams, so it's a little bit on the heavy side, so I could probably upgrade for maybe a little bit of a lighter jacket, but it's done me pretty well up until now. Alright, now for one of my favourite bits of clothing, and that is the trusty old flannel. I love my flannels. I probably have about a dozen flannels and pretty much wear them all year round. They're just a great sort of mid-layer for when things start to get a little bit fresh. It's always good to chuck a flannel on, especially during winter. I like to hike in a flannel as well, and yeah, just bloody love them. You honestly can't go wrong with a good flannel. This brand is just industry, so not really an outdoor brand, but they've been making some pretty good flannels recently, so I've stocked up. But yeah, just a really good sort of mid-layer to chuck on when things start to get a little bit fresh. Alright, so now for my pants. So this brand's called Mountain Design. I've been using these ones for probably about 2 years now, and I really like them. They're nice and lightweight, they're stretchy, so they're really comfortable. I like the big cargo pockets on it. That's probably what I like the most about them. Is I've always got stuff in my pockets, whether it's camera batteries or a bandana or bloody Tinder or something. There's always something I've got in my pocket, so it's really good to have them, and they're just really comfortable, stretchy pants. They're also convertible pants as well, so it's got the bottom halves here, and they can zip onto the bottom to create long pants. So when I'm going to bed, I'll zip them on, or in the morning I'll sort of wear them around. But when I start hiking, I tend to take these off and just wear the shorts by themselves. Alright, now for my hiking t-shirt, there is absolutely nothing special about this at all. It's just a plain old simple industry crew fit cotton t-shirt. Now I know cotton is terrible for hiking. It's definitely not moisture wicking. It pretty much absorbs all the moisture, but to be honest, I've tried a bunch of hiking t-shirts on in the store and I just hate them. They're a terrible cut, they're a terrible fit, and yeah, for someone who's tall like myself, I just cannot stand it. So most places I go, it's not too dangerous to sort of wear something like this. Even if it does get wet, I'm not going to get hypothermia. If I was going to go somewhere it's a bit dangerous, then I might get something a bit more suited, but for sort of warm climate that I'm in, yeah, this does me just fine. So yeah, until an outdoor brand makes a decent hiking t-shirt, this is pretty much what I'll wear. Alright, and so in this little packing cell here, I carry a few different things for winter. So I've just got another pair of socks. I've got the lower portion to my pants as well, I keep inside here. And lastly, I've got my merino wool icebreaker tights or thermals. So these are super warm, these things. I really like them. They keep me so warm in winter. And yeah, I'll wear them when I go to bed. I don't wear them during the day, but just before I go to bed, I'll chuck these on. Alright, and just the last bit of sort of clothing, I guess you could call it, or hygiene maybe, is just a nice bandana. So this brand is Pendleton. I picked this up when I was in the States a couple of years ago. And yeah, I really like to carry this in my pocket just when I'm hiking. So particularly in summer, if I find that I'm sort of sweating a lot, then I'll sort of use this to wipe the sweat off my brow. But you could also use this to sort of filter the sediment out of water, so that you can then boil up and drink. Or you could, if I forget my hat or I just want a sort of a bit of a head covering, I can always wrap this around my forehead just to keep the sun off me. So I find this is yeah, pretty handy. Alright, now for one of the most important bits of my kit, and something I get asked about all the time, and that is my hat. Now this brand is called a Kubra, and the style is called the Banjo Patterson. Now, I've had this hat for about 5 years or so, and it's got some pretty good wear out of it. Yeah, obviously it does a really good job of keeping the sun off my face, but it's also really good at keeping the rain off my face as well. And I just like to wear it because it's part of Australian history as well, our heritage. Kubra's been in manufacturing for about 150 years or so it's part of our culture and our heritage, so it's nice to sort of continue that as well. So I absolutely love my hat. Right, now for my boots. So these are the Scarpa Terras. I really like these boots. I've had them for about maybe 4 years now. And I've got a lot of use out of them. They've actually held up pretty well. A few little things are starting to come apart, like the back here, it's starting to fall apart there. Just needs a few stitches there, and I have kind of burnt the sole on the fire a few times, but apart from that, it's actually held up pretty well. I could probably take better care of it by sort of conditioning the leather a bit more. But yeah, they're a really nice boot. They're waterproof, obviously up into the ankle, they're waterproof. But that's probably the only biggest downfall about them is if you get water inside of it, like I do when I go fishing sometimes, they get waterlogged and they're really hard to dry out. So that's probably the biggest issue that I have with them is, yeah, once they get wet, they stay wet for a while. But apart from that, they're a really nice boot, and I'll probably end up getting the same again once I replace them. Alright, so that's for my camera equipment. Now, obviously I've got my camera filming right now, so I'll have to try and film it some other way to show you guys what camera I'm using, but basically I'm using the Canon EOS R, and the lens is a 24-105 STM lens, so that's really good for filming. I've also got a neutral density filter on that, and I use a Rode Video Micro to record the audio. And then for the tripod, I use this Slick Video Sprint 2 tripod, and I really like this tripod. I've tried a few different ones, and I think this is probably the best one I've used. Weighs about 1 kilo, so not super heavy, but also not super light. But I have tried lighter tripods, but they're a bit flimsy. But this one's yeah, really solid. Hey, it's actually like aluminium or something. It's not plastic, which is good. Also has these little adjustments here, so you can sort of extend the legs out sort of up to 90 degrees, which is good. And also it's got a pan head as well, so that's great for filming. And it's also, it comes to a nice height, so you're not sort of always bending over trying to frame up your shot. So I really like this tripod. It's served me well over the last year. Alright, this is something that's probably a little bit controversial for some people, but a little speaker. Now, I love my music. There's nothing better than just sitting around a campfire after a long day of hiking, drinking a gin and tonic, and just listening to some Paul Kelly or some Johnny Cash or just some nice ambient music. It's just a really great way to end the day. So this it doesn't take up much room, it's pretty lightweight, and so I really enjoy taking this. But I know there's a lot of people out there that hate music in the bush, which is fair enough, each to your own. But you guys do you and I'll do me. So it's something that I really enjoy, so I usually bring this with me. Alright, now we all know I'm not the best fisherman in the world, but I sure like to give it a red hot crack. And this is my wild camping fishing setup. So I've got my Savage Gear travel rod in here, and then just a reel, and then just a variety of lures, sort of depending where I'm going, whether I'm chasing bass or chasing trout, or change up the lures. But yeah, even though, like I said, I'm not the best fisherman in the world, quite a lot of the places I go to are really beautiful rivers, so it'd be a shame not to chuck the rod in. And I'm slowly getting a little bit better, which is good. And it's just something I enjoy doing, and it's a nice way to sort of pass the time. So yeah, this is what I'll usually chuck in the kit. Alright, now time for my base weight. Now, because I do these videos, it requires me to carry a fair bit of extra camera gear, and it's about 3.3 kilos to be exact. So it's a fair bit of extra camera gear to be lugging around the bush, but hopefully you guys agree that it's worthwhile doing to make these videos. So it's definitely something I've got to consider when I'm packing for a trip. But if I get rid of all my camera gear, get rid of my food and my water, my base weight for this kit is about 9 kilos or so. It really depends what I want to take on that particular trip, but it's usually around the 9 kilo mark. But by the time I add the camera gear, that's getting up around about the 12 kilo mark. And then by the time I add my food, my water, a couple of extra beers, maybe some gin and tonic, then you're sort of pushing around the 15 kilo mark or so. And especially if I add my fishing gear as well, which I quite often do, it starts to get a little bit heavy then. But it really depends how far I'm going. If I'm going a couple of Ks, then I might want to take a few of those luxury items. But if I want to sort of do some decent distance, then I might want to sort of strip that kit right down, and I can sort of get this down to around the 7 kilo mark for those lightweight hiking trips. So I'll try and do another video on that in the future. But yeah, like I said, this really depends what trip I'm doing, determines what kind of gear I'm taking. So yeah, like I said at the start of the video, it's very personal. So you guys do you, find what works for you and just run with that. This works for me and I'm happy with it. So yeah, hopefully you guys got some enjoyment out of this video. If you guys did, then please give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Hooroo.